how to discover hidden risks in your content. In this session you will learn how you can actually discover hidden risk in your content and model it. So Michele and Rob are going to show you why this is important for you and how this can work on your solution.
Buongiorno everybody, and thank you Jasper for passing me the line. I'm Michele Vaccaro and I lead the solution consultant team for AI and analytics in OpenText, and I'm continuing with all of you this journey into the discovery of risk hidden in content. So let's start by saying that not all the risks are born equal, and every company every day faces different type of risks. Including security risk, data privacy risk, and reputational risk. Each one of these type of risks lead to different use cases and different remediating actions. For example, security risk is about unauthorized access and preventing that to happen. There are traditional technology used by every company, but what about the millions of files that are spread all around our company in repositories or in shares that could potentially contain information that could be utilized to this access to data and system. So we need to identify technologies that are capable of detecting this type of content and this type of information. The data privacy risk brings a completely different use case. In this situation, we are actually in the need of identifying content that contains personal identifiable information that can lead to the identification of an individual, or personal sensitive information that could potentially lead to that could potentially be used to discriminate peoples. And last but not least, the reputational risk. This can really put a threat to the good name of your company and your brand. In this case, we are more looking into the social media chats and blogs that happen continuously in every moment, and it's impossible to prevent from happening. So in this case, we need technologies that are capable of identifying inappropriate categories of content like racism, bullyism, vulgarity, and so on. But identifying this type of risk is definitely not an easy task, especially because we are mainly talking about unstructured content. And when it comes to unstructured content, we know that a lot of this type of content is dark and unknown. We all know that in our company, in repository and in share, there is a lot of content for which we don't have information to guess what's inside that content. And for sure, we don't have information to remediate or to assess the risk contained. We don't have metadata that can tell us about these files, and these files are not usually well classified against the specific categories of content. So again, we don't have any information to assess the risk that they might contain. And it's absolutely impossible to think that this metadata enrichment or classification can be done manually by humans. The volume and speed of growth of this content has by far exceeded the human capacity to keep pace. So what can we do? Well, we can utilize technologies like the one that we are presenting today. Magellan Risk Guard from OpenText is capable of mitigating the risk hidden in content by leveraging intelligent technologies and artificial intelligence related technologies. Natural language processing, in fact, is one of the artificial intelligence technologies and is capable of doing a semantic analysis of the content and therefore identifying all those elements that could potentially represent a risk for your business. Risk Guards comes with a fantastic user interface that allows your business user to easily set and define what is the level of risk for every type of information, so that they can do an analysis that is contextualized to your current business and needs. And the analysis is not only related to text, because Magellan Risk Guard comes equipped with a number of technology that can identify risk also within images and video. Once you have identified the level of risk that is contained in your document, Risk Guard gives you the ability to remediate. You can, for example, move or delete content so that they do not represent a risk anymore. But let's stop talking and let's give the word to Rob, who is ready to give us a fantastic live demo about Magellan Risk Guard. From me, thank you very much for listening to us, and enjoy the next session.
Okay, what we are going to show you now is some examples of the Risk Guard environment that's put on top of your unstructured content. And what you see here are a couple of results in a very nice user interface, which shows you the different kind of crawling processes that can be set up. Just to show you an example of a crawling exercise that we can show you here, is that this will give you the result of the different risk analysis that have been done, subdivided by a high risk, medium risk, low risk, and some characteristics that don't imply any risk at all. So if you take a look, for example, here, the way we can set up those characteristics to be able to get to this result is that, for example, if you take a look into the setup, that, for example, you have in your organization information residing that has to do with, for example, credit card information being stored as an image. Well, which is very private information, and for compliancy perspective, it would be very nice if you could detect that to be able to avoid any claims on that you keep track of that kind of information of your customers or whatsoever. So next to this type of video and image type of risks, we can also subdivide here the personal identification information. Now, what do we need by that? That means that some of these characteristics, if you combine them together, that can result into the fact that the person to which this information belongs to can be identified by interrelating that information together. For example, a passport together with somebody's phone number could lead to the exact individual. Now, that's something that is, of course, forbidden. And again, to be able to avoid that type of claims, you can set up this type of characteristics, and in there you can say yourself, well, if I find somewhere in my content an address, it could be detected as being high risk, or I can set it to medium risk, low, or no risk at all. Now, that from a personal identification perspective, again, the combination of that type of information can lead to the right person. And then again, another type of information that can be very sensitive is personal sensitivity about people's gender, are his contact details or his biometric data. Again, this is information you like to detect and be able to get rid of that, and at least to avoid that it will be available to the public. So by setting up this type of characteristics, we can go to that information, and then we can start the scrolling process, and that will result here into a certain number of risks that will be shown up here. Now, for example, when we scroll here on the medium risk, we can see here exactly how many documents are stored under the medium risk after we have done the analysis based on the setting of the characteristics we have done. So if you take a look further now into the way we have defined now the high risks, and in here we see now a whole pile of different documents, and here you see how the distribution is between high, medium, low, and no risk at all per individual document. Now, to take a look here, and we say, well, we like to put on a filter, and now we can say, well, it is stored here under high risk, or we can say we only want to see the high risk ones, or we can say underneath the personal identification risks or under the personal sensitivity risks, we can then segregate and just put a filter on top of that. Now for here, if we want to take a look only at the image and the video data, then we see here that it's already a subset of that information. And when we take a look at an individual document, then we see here in the individual document what type of characteristics have we found on that document. There is some racism content involved, and there's some other information about that as well. Now, and one we see here with low risk is, for example, the URL and the personal information. Now, having that document being crawled, then we can click on here and then we see exactly residing here underneath the personal information number with the email information, with the URL and that type of stuff. So from that perspective, by discovering the outcome of the crawling process, we see then also what is then the actual content that has been crawled out of that document based on the setting of the characteristics. One other thing we can do here is that, for example, once we have found a document or a type of information which has very high risk, we can just highlight it and then make the decision. Do we want to move it to a certain destination? It could be some place on our file system, or we can copy it somewhere, or we can leave it where it is, or we can get rid of it completely. Now, by doing that, we can make all kinds of decisions. And now going back to our overall information, we can also do then here, run all kinds of reports. What is in the outcome of the join crawling report, specifically for the identification information report or for the sensitivity information report. So that has all been configurable. And we can also say here, based on the action history, so what have we done out of those documents, which have we copied or maybe removed or dispositioned at all, we can identify that as well. So this gives you then a rough overview about how easy it is to put the Risk Guard environment on top of your existing content management environment or even file systems or a combination of those. Thank you very much.
Okay. In this inspiring session, you've seen how you can discover hidden risks in your content. Yeah? We will be happy to define a pilot with you how we can make this solution work in your organization. Yeah? And don't forget, it's not only risks you can discover, but there's also value and opportunities you can discover in your content, only modeled in a different way. If you want to start with a pilot, please don't hesitate to contact me or one of my colleagues today. Enjoy the day.